you ever wondered where the name Palestine comes from? The Romans deliberately named the land of Israel after the mortal enemies of the Jewish people, the Philistines. Not because the Philistines still lived there. In fact, there's no evidence of the Philistines after about 500 BC, but simply to spite the Jewish people and to demonstrate their conquest of the land. The Romans destroyed the temple in 70 AD, and more specifically after they conquered Bar Kokhba and his revolt in 132 AD. Over the next 1800 years, Israel was controlled by the Byzantines from about 324. They were conquered by the Muslims in 638 AD. Crusaders came along in around 1099 AD, and then the Ayyubid Muslims came around in 1187, then the Crusaders came back in 1229 through 1244, then the Ayyubids fought back in 1244, then the Mamluk Muslims came in 1250 AD, and finally, Ottoman Turkish Muslims attacked it in 1516 and controlled it all the way to 1917. Now, what happened in 1917? Who knows their Aussie history? The Australian light horsemen conquered Beersheba, which is in South Israel. Well, England won the war and all carved the Ottoman Empire into Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, Lebanon, and the British Mandate of Palestine. So there's also some other nations that were carved up, like in Europe, certain nations were created. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Finland. Now, if you don't remember anything else in terms of the history lesson, remember this name, San Remo Conference, 1920. At this conference, the League of Nations, who was established after World War I, they divided the Ottoman Empire into Turkey, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, the British Mandate, Palestine. They established the legal right of all of these nations, including the land west of the Jordan, to be considered as a Jewish state. And then, 2 years later, they decided that they would have a two-state solution. So they chopped off 76% of it and gave it to the Hashemite kingdom. And it became known as Transjordan and now is today known as Jordan. Now, unfortunately, Britain made conflicting promises. And there's a huge amount of Arab attacks against the British and against the Jewish people to the point that things were just a mess. And then World War II broke out. After World War II and the Holocaust, Britain then turns to the newly formed United Nations for help. And the United Nations came up with another partition plan. Once again, all of the blue land was going to be given to Israel, and then the orange, the dark orange, was going to be a Palestinian state. The Jewish people accepted this, the Arabs refused, and therefore the latest or last legally binding statement is that which was done by the League of Nations at the San Remo Conference. Now, to put it another way, if Israel does not have the right to exist, then neither do Syria or Poland or Finland or, if any of those other nations.